All right, this is a video for us ladies to try to understand what it's like to be a man and deal with all that testosterone. And I've been trying to understand it, but it really came clear to me in this podcast I listened to where Dr. Carol Hoovens, who is a Harvard professor who just published a book on testosterone, was on Chris Williamson's podcast. And she was also on Joe Rogan recently, talking about her research on testosterone. And I put the link in the description. And the first thing that she says is that when she talked to women who transitioned to become men without changing their genitalia just by taking testosterone, these women were shocked by how much all of a sudden all they could think about was the genitalia of the sex that they were attracted to. So women, lesbians who transitioned to become men were all of a sudden fixated on the genitalia of women. And they were shocked by it, and they had to learn how to manage it. It is very difficult for men to manage their testosterone. Now, I'm not giving men an out that they can just go around ogling us and whatever, but I think that we as women need to understand what testosterone does and have a little bit of compassion for men and to understand men, especially if we're in a relationship with men. I've also made a lot of videos talking about women and how we are. And in order for us to get along and appreciate each other, it's so important that we understand each other instead of women trying to get men to be like us and men trying to get women to be like them. Understanding our differences is crucial. And so Dr. Hoovens is very moved by her research. She has a son that's a teenage son, and she doesn't want him growing up to feel like his masculinity is toxic. But while she was writing the book on testosterone, she had a dream that helped her to kind of understand how men are. And in this dream, and she explains this in the podcast, she's standing in the kitchen, she sees this woman, but instead of seeing this woman as a whole person, all she could think about, how can I manage this woman and get her out of the way so I can access her genitals? And that's sometimes how men actually think. Nature designed, it's the testosterone that makes them that way. That's why as they get older, they mellow out a little bit. But the testosterone increases their libido a lot. It makes them really zero in on genitalia and makes them want to get the genitalia. And what men have to learn to do, and they're very good at it, they have to manage that in a social setting, in a cultural setting, so that they're not ogling at women. They look at us, but they do it in a way, they've learned to do it in a way that we don't notice it, but they can't help it. Okay? You try being jacked full of testosterone, ladies. The next time you complain about a man's sex drive, you try jacking yourself full of testosterone and see how you feel. I had a friend years ago, or I met her a couple times, who had transitioned from, she was a woman. It was a man that had transitioned into a woman. And she was explaining to me how the sex drive was so much higher for a man because of the testosterone. But yeah, and that's why we as women have to be cognizant of this. So for example, and they also talked about this, I think, on Joe Rogan, that, women are walking around with their breasts hanging out and their skirts really short, and they think that they're liberated, and what's the problem? But it's very distracting to the men because they're already so horny. The last thing they need is some woman taunting them like that, but the women have no clue. They feel like they're liberated. They don't get it. So that's the thing. Now, of course, for us ladies, and they also talked about the difference in orgasm. Women tend to have more of a full body orgasm, whereas men's orgasm will be very localized in their penis. There's a lot of stuff that testosterone changes about men. The changes that testosterone creates, most of the changes already start in the womb, so that when little boys are born already, their brains are already shaped in a different way, and they're more likely in general to want to tumble and roughhouse. They're also, what testosterone does, it increases aggression. It doesn't mean that all men are predators, okay? But aggression, like they want to tussle and they want to compete. And, and it increases their sex drive a lot. Whereas for women, we have more estrogen, so we tend to be more nurturing. And the nice thing about men and women being in a relationship is that we kind of get to dance. If we can understand the opposite sex, I guess we can dance around and try to figure out what it's like. But yeah, I find this very fascinating. And I was talking to somebody earlier today, and he was like, it really sometimes sucks being a man. My sex drive is so high, I'm constantly horny, and it sucks. I wish I didn't have such a sex drive. But he goes, it's just part of, I know it's just because I'm a man. He goes, and I know you ladies have other things. You have periods. You have to experience mood swings through your cycles. You birth babies. I don't want that either. But for me as a man, I have a high sex drive, and it kind of sucks. I can't help it though. It's there. So what are these men supposed to do? I really welcome these discussions, especially in the age of wokeism, where they're trying to tell us we're all the same. We're not. We're not all the same. And the hormones definitely play a huge influence on our differences. So just wanted to throw that out there and share that with you guys. And thank you for watching my video.